Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bay Area Focus. I'm your host, Michelle Griego. We'd love to hear show ideas, so please come back to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Bay Area Focus and comment to our posts. Well, we have another really great show for you this morning with arts and community groups. And up first is Jason Deitch, co-creator of Warring Project. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having us and supporting us.
Yeah, so tell me about the Warring Project. It's been around for 2 years now.
Yeah, so the Warring Project was put together as a way to ignite dialogue between civilians and veterans. One of the real difficulties that veterans face when they come home during the transition process is being able to have relationships with people. And mostly
really like knowing where to fit in or how to fit in.
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand that veterans belong, warfighter culture is a very different culture than civilian culture. And very different than when you went in the military, where you underwent 6 months to a year of enculturation, where you were made into a soldier. When you leave the military, it's one day to the next. So one day you have a very clear identity where everything makes sense to you and is very meaningful, and you know exactly what you're doing. And then the next day you wake up and you're in a world that's entirely culturally different. And the language is different, how we make friends is different. All of these normative things we take for granted are very different. And so Warring tried to create a bridge using a subject matter that was, at the time, very interesting, had a little bit of an attraction to everybody, has become much more commonplace, and most importantly was a shared trait between veterans and civilians, namely tattooing.
Namely tattooing. Explain some of the tattoos. You
So,
have some yourself. You're
I
a
do.
Army medic.
I do have a few tattoos. So, tattoos are basically they're like a narrative language. There's probably been a tradition of tattooing among soldiers as far back as you could go. I'm sure, you know, there was a guy fighting in the Peloponnesian War in Greece who had a tattoo about where he, you know, what unit he was with. Sure. Nowadays, they also express things that warfighter culture finds a little bit taboo, namely emotional subjects, things about loss, emotional subjects about fear or questions. And they're used to document where you've been, what combat you've done, what units you belong to. So it's a whole language.
Yeah, we have some examples of those tattoos. Why are some of those subjects, why are they taboo?
In warfighter culture, your main objective is to wage war. And so if you could imagine, this is obviously a kind of a gross example, but if you could imagine trying to stand up and talk about how you felt, my feelings this evening before we go on ambush, that probably isn't the thing that warfighter culture is best built for. But of course, people need to express those things, right? No matter the culture or not. And so tattoos oftentimes wind up being a language, a secondary language, where they're able to talk about those feelings and those issues around things like loss or moral questions, etc.
So there's an online exhibit that showcases some of these expressions.
Yeah, it showcases 24 California veterans who we managed to go across the entire state of California to find, who have incredible art and whose story is actually even more fascinating than the art. We got incredibly lucky. Chris Brown and I, my co-creator, got so lucky in the people we wound up finding and the art that we were able to bring out to the civilian world to help explain their culture.
How did you select who would be featured?
Oh, it was brutal. It was really, really hard. We got a lot of submissions. Many of them, it came down only to the place in the whole. So we tried to make the 24 people that would fit together the best, that could tell the most comprehensive story. We also knew that there were certain things we had to do to make civilians understand, right? And so we couldn't include things that they couldn't quite grasp without much more cultural explanation. And so it was truly one of the more painful parts of the process was making those selections.
So Warring, it's been around for a couple of years
Yeah,
now.
it has now.
You've actually set some goals and made those goals, but
Yeah.
you also have even more goals.
Yeah, we did so well when we first started. We were nominated for a Webby. We've won America's most prestigious humanities prize from the National Endowment of Humanities. We won the Print Graphic Award of the West. We won all these amazing awards. And so what we've been able to do is take that social cachet, that social capital, and allow more veterans to have the experience, the positive experience of engaging with civilians around this exhibit, while also giving civilians the opportunity to really start to have a feeling about how human veterans are, how identical to you and I, to every other person a veteran is, underneath the cultural differences.
Well, you're doing some great work, and like you said, you have a lot of tattoos, but you're actually getting a new one right after you leave the studio here.
I am. I'm actually on my way there after I leave here.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show and telling us all about it. And for more information about War Inc., yes, thank you. Please log on to warinc.org. Again, that's warinc.org. INK, yes. Coming up, an interview with an arts and music education nonprofit. We'll be back.